Doing the live dance,
Really?
and we're live. So, hello, everybody. I am HB Holo / Edie Skye. I write books. I also interview other people who write books. And today I have Jason Cordova, whose newest book, Mountain of Fire, just came out recently. So, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be giving away some signed copies and generally having a good old time. First, Jason, tell us who you are and about your book.
My name's Jason Cordova. I wrote a book. Actually, I've written a few books, but I recently had Mountain of Fire come out from Baen Books, set in John Ringo's Black Tide Rising series. It follows the adventures of Sister Anne, Maddie, and the girls at a private boarding Catholic school in rural Appalachia, Virginia. And basically, they have to take on zombies, a wannabe tinpot dictator, and just nature itself as they try to rebuild the country.
Nice. And you've got several other books coming out this year too, don't you? We were chatting beforehand, and so we can talk about those as we go on.
Yeah.
But first off, before we get started, I want to say again, we are giving away a signed copy, or 2 signed copies actually, right? And so the links to sign up for that are in the show notes, but I'm also going to put the link in the chat just now. So go in, fill out this little form, and after the podcast, we will select 2 winners and you'll get signed books. So yay. Also, if you just want to go buy it now because you're impatient like me, I'm going to include a link where you can just go straight up buy it. And this is from Baen, and thanks to Baen for allowing me to stream on their channels. It's always nice. And all right. Oh, we've already got Melissa in the chat. Melissa says, hey. All right. So now, Mountain of Fire. So this is book 13, right? In the technically 13, technically 9, technically 13. It's weird. The Black Tide Rising series is set up weird. But anyway, so it's book not number 1. So first off, for people who are not familiar with the Black Tide Rising series, sum that up and then sum up where Mountain of Fire fits in terms of the storyline. Is it a standalone? Do you have to read the rest of the series? We'll start simple. What's Black Tide Rising about?
The Black Tide Rising universe was basically what happens when a modified rabies virus is weaponized and turned against the people of the world. It starts with the focus on one small family, the Smith family, and their escape from society, trying to get out to sea, doing all the smart things that people watching certain unnamed zombie TV shows. They're avoiding the stupid mistakes they make, and they're basically trying to save as many people as they can. But as the series goes on, it becomes less about saving the people and more about rebuilding society afterwards. And it's by John Ringo. It was an amazing series. I fell in love with it when I first read it. Then they did an anthology after the first 4 books. Actually, I think the first 4 or 6. No, first 4 books. They did an anthology, and I was invited to participate in it, which shocked me. And it's been steamrolling along ever since. We have, like you said, this is the 9th book in the series in terms of novels, and then there's the 4 anthologies, which is why it's counted as 13.
Right.
The rest of it was. What was the rest of the second question? That was a long question.
So Mountain of Fire, do you have to have read the rest of the series to enjoy it, or is it standalone?
It's written as a standalone. You don't have to read the rest of the series. I would always recommend, of course, reading the first book at least, so you know the background of what the virus is and how quickly, well, I wouldn't say quickly, but how society falls apart in the time frame, and how the escape to sea pretty much set the tone for the rest of the series. Mountain of Fire, like I said, it takes place actually in very rural Virginia, like right on the Virginia-West Virginia border. So there's not a lot of population there, so not a lot of chance for massive amounts of zombies, which allows the school, which is pretty secluded anyway, to survive more or less intact.
Is that why you chose that particular location for the setting?
I'm sorry, what?
What led you to choose that area as the setting?
Well, I worked at a place called the Boys Home of Virginia, which is literally, I transposed the girls' school onto it, and I made some changes for design purposes and location, so they don't get bombarded with people wanting to come up to take tours. But they had some very unique features, which included a Cold War era bunker underneath the main cafeteria, which could survive because it was near the Greenbrier, which is where Congress would go during a nuclear event, and also the Homestead, which was also an emergency redoubt center back during the Cold War. So it was positioned right between those. So if nukes were flying, that school needed somewhere to shelter and hunker down. And it had water access. It was perfect. It's designed to be a self-sufficient school when it was originally built back in like 1905. And then from there, I was like, well, it's really easy just to make it a girls' school instead of a boys' home.
Why the decision to make it a girls' school instead of a boys' school?
I tried writing it from a teenage male's perspective with a bunch of his buddies, and I just could not make the story work. It was horrible. And so I tried. I was like, okay, fine, let's try it as a female main character, and it worked so much better. I was like, okay, this is what the story wants to be. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah, and it reads very well. I started reading it earlier today, and first off, it's a super fun read already. Like, I love that by, page 3, a zombie has already gotten smacked in the face with a hockey stick, and it's like, yes, this thing starts fierce and fun, and I love it. And I want to say I'm like 50 pages in at this point, so we have just met the Appalachia Rex, which I love. Yes, and so I won't give away much. But yeah, it's a really fun book thus far. And did you find it challenging writing girls? Because usually you have the exact opposite experience, like where the author finds it easier to write characters of their own gender and the opposite gender is difficult. But how did that work with you?
So I have a lot of little sisters, like an insane amount, and it wasn't that challenging. It was more of trying to rein her in because they call her Mad Maddie for a reason. So having to like rein in her impulse and be like, no, you can't do that. Yes. Does that include the story of New York? Sorry, I'm reading the comments.
For those who are audio only in the comments, Philip K. Booker, hi Philip, by the way, asked, does that include the story in the LibertyCon anthology? And we'll talk about your short stories too later today.
This is actually based on that short story.
Oh, okay.
That she's talking about. I was asked to expand it. Nice. But no, I've for this book it didn't really, and for the last book I wrote as well with Larry Correa, I didn't have a hard time getting into the mind of the female character because it's a character. She's going to have different concerns and needs than the teenage boy. But in the end, she's still human. So.
Cool. Philip also adds, love the cover. We got to talk about the cover too, because that thing, oh my gosh, I have seen it a million times over the past year, or maybe not the past year, since I think it hasn't been out that long, or hasn't been released that long, or pre-ordered that long. Man, words tonight. Oh my gosh. But it still catches my eye, even though I've seen it so much. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the cover. In the comments again, we have Donna. Thanks for watching, Donna, who says one of my favorite series, and I generally don't like zombie books. So that's high praise, because I'm honestly not much of a zombie reader either, but I am really enjoying what I've read thus far.
I don't like zombies either. I actually, like when I wrote the very first story in the Black Tide Rising anthology, I actually had to call somebody else in, Eric Brown. I was like, hey, I need you to help me write this because I suck at writing zombies. And then I learned from that. And then for when I got reinvited for the third anthology, I said, okay, they're not zombies, they're shamblers, and it's going to be focused more on the people trying to survive and less on the zombies themselves. And then it became much easier.
Yes. So what was the challenge in writing zombies initially? Was it just that they're kind of so distant and the humans suffering because of them are more interesting? Like, what was the initial hurdle you had to jump?
I don't write horror. I don't like it. I don't like to read it. I don't even like to watch it. Now, it's not that I'm afraid or anything. It's just, I just don't like it. It's like now, don't get me wrong. There are certain zombie movies I liked. I think it was Grindhouse. Robert Rodriguez had his zombies it was wild. Came out in the 2000s. That was fun because it was more explodey, shooting everything up, and less about the horror, creepy, slow moving factor. It was fun. So when John created his zombies, they're not true zombies. They're rabid humans. So they're running fast. They're like 28 days later, or not 28 days later, well, yeah, the 28 days, the rage zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Cool. I keep looking in the chat. It keeps moving.
Yeah, me too. It keeps getting popped up. I'm like, oh, new.
Yeah. There's a comment I missed earlier from Melissa that said you really did an excellent job at getting a teenage girl character right. Yeah, I really like Maddie as a character. She's one of those characters. Well, sure, she's a female badass without being a stereotype, and I find her like she is believably tough for her age too. And I mean, she's a character with a heavy background that sort of lent her that toughness. But I do really like that you got both the teenage girl character and the female badass right. Speaking of which, let's talk about the characters. So let's talk about the main characters. We've got Sister Anne. We've got Maddie. And Sister Anne's not even the main character, but she comes to my mind first because she's just such a good character. So, and then we've got a whole little class of girls that help Maddie out and serve various functions in this sort of survival team. So let's hear about them.
Okay, well, like you said, first was Sister Anne. She's a former Marine turned nun when she had her calling. Something happened when she was in the Marine Corps, when she was deployed during the global war on terror, which caused her to retire from the Marines and take her vows. I never really explained what that is. I let the reader try to just put in their head what they want. Mm-hmm. But it was a pretty life-altering event. Maddie has, as you said, she was a very troubled girl who, before she came to the school, and she's trying to best to turn her life around. The accidental valedictorian, which I'm sorry, I just thought that was hilarious that she had to kill the former classic valedictorian, but it was legit. Zombie. Let's see. There's Lucia, who becomes her like little partner in crime later in the book. There's Ula, the little girl who starts to tag along with Maddie and try to learn everything. There's Rohina. She's the foil to Maddie. She's the mouthy foil. There's just it's Nathan. Sorry. Wow, who else? There's so many characters to keep track of.
He says hello to two of my favorite people in the fiction writing profession. Thank you, Nathan. Good to have you here.
So I'm trying to think of them all. But there's so many. I had a lot of girls who survived. I think it was at 25 girls and one nun out of a school of 550 students, and I don't even know how many teachers and nuns. That was the total survivors.
Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to love Sister Anne the moment I knew that she was a Marine turned nun. I mean, that's a great combination. Oh, and Nathan also says, also a great T-shirt.
Oh yeah, I love Rippaverse. Good stuff. Oh. So yeah, but and then of course there's villains. Well, villain, as you'll find later in the book. You just ran into him.
Yes, just a few pages ago. But
yes.
Do we want to talk about the villains, or are they?
Well, you can talk about it because the short story that this whole thing was based on was published in the first anthology in 2016.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're avoiding novel spoilers, but yeah, I guess technically the short story is kind of a spoiler for the novel.
The short story is in the book, but there's so much more that happens after that.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the short stories. So you've written 2 Black Tide Rising short stories?
Yeah, officially I've written 3 because the Baen.com one that's went for free.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is actually up at Baen right now if people are interested. There's a free short story until the 15th. I think it'll be up.
Cool.
I basically the first one was a group of thieves in Black Tide Rising who are going to rob the Louvre in the middle of the zombie apocalypse when. I threw in John Ringo as a Tuckerization in there just to see if he would catch it, and he did not catch it. No. It was a fictional character he created for himself in one of his past books, and I threw it in there just to see if he would catch it. I even described John in it, and he didn't catch it. I was very upset. I expected to get yelled at, and he just kind of stared blankly at me when I asked him about it. So it's just one of those funny things where it's like, darn, opportunity missed. I don't know. That was called The Best Laid Plans was the title of that story.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was Appalachia Rex, which, as you as you get to meet him, he calls himself the ruler of Appalachia. He's from rural Virginia. His real name is King Dale the First, but because Sister Anne is a proper Catholic, she calls him Appalachia Rex, which is King of Appalachia, just as he calls. But unfortunately, poor Dale doesn't speak Latin, so he keeps thinking she's insulting him. So it's like, my name's not Rex, woman. It's Dale. What's wrong with you?
I love the scene where she confronts him, or where they meet for the first time, because he's definitely he's the novel antagonist. He's going to be a scary guy, but she has such a powerful presence facing him, and in certain instances treating him like one of her students that she's reprimanding. And I love that back and forth between them.
That was fun to write. The editor of the anthology, Gary Poole, when he was first reading it, he told me that he loved his sister Anne. He loved the way she interacted, and every moment to her is a teaching moment. It doesn't matter who the student is. So
I really like that about her character too, because you get the impression that she's very much someone who is very stern, but cares a lot for her girls, and I really enjoy reading characters like that, and especially when they're as funny as she can be. Like she's one of those who's very subtly funny. But we got another comment here. Let's see. I think I missed a few. Oh, John is in the comments and says, "Great book, binge it Wednesday." And Linda says, "Cool, looking forward to the online story." And then we have, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but Sport Aviator says, "Known Jason a long time. Well-deserved kudos from rural Appalachia." So
I know who that is. Hi, Bill.
All right. So let's see. Did we discuss the third short story?
Well, the third short story was where it gets weird, because I wrote the third short story for the anthology United We Stand, which just came out this past April. Unfortunately, my story ran long, and so did the anthology. So they pulled the story from it.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but then Tony Weisskopf, the publisher at Baen Books, and Gary Poole got together with John and said, "Hey, why don't we let him turn this into a novel?"
Okay.
So that is not how you get book deals at Baen, by the way. Just putting that out there.
Cool. You actually just answered my next question. I was going to ask, how did this novel happen?
So that's why when I say the third one, it came from that, and then I expanded it. It ended up being 120,000 words or something like that. It's one of the longest books I've ever written.
Yeah.
And then so it just kind of accidentally happened. I was writing the story, and it just kept going. I'm like, I'm ready for you to end, but apparently the story wasn't ready to end yet.
Oh, one of those. I know that feeling.
So it was good. And then of course there's the last one, which is The Last Convoy Out of River City, which is available for free at Baen.com right now. And it talks about a character who you haven't met yet, but who is in the book. And that is Sammy Rameau. And he's a lowly mail clerk in the lieutenant governor's office in Richmond. And for those of you who don't know, or the history of Richmond, Richmond used to be called River City back during the Civil War eras. And one thing where I did, because I had feelings about the Monument Avenue statues that got all torn down. Forget history, erase it. But I want to have a running gun battle down Monument Avenue while they're using the statues as cover from everybody shooting at them, because VCUB has become this like fortress of people who want to take over Richmond. So can't bully none. Nope, you cannot.
Philip's in the chat again. We got an active chat tonight. You can't bully a nun. They are tough as nails. I'm on the Baen website trying to find your short story so I can share it in the chat while you talk. And I keep forgetting to actually finish my search because I'm listening.
If you go to the main page and scroll down, it should be the third entry down.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Main page, third entry down. Yep, there it is. Okay. Read more. I'm going to put it in the chat. And all right. Ta-da! Okay, there we go. All right, it is now in the chat, so go read it.
It's free for the next 7 days or so. And I had a blast writing that one. No, I didn't. I'm lying. I was miserable writing that one because I didn't know where it was going and it wasn't talking to me at all.
Oh
And
no.
fortunately, Melissa Olthoff was helping me pretty much walked me through it. Her and Nick Steverson together just walked me through it, and I finally was able to do it. So that was.
So I take it you're more of a pantser than a plotter then.
It depends on the book. This one I had to plot because I needed a very detailed outline before John, Tony, and Gary would approve it. And then when I finished the first draft, I had to have Gary and Tony approve it, and then John gave the final approval once it was done. So it had more readers than normal before it made it to print.
What is your general writing process? How do you where do you start, and then how do you organize it?
So I start with the character. Always start with the character. The character is the easiest part for me because if you have a fleshed out, well drawn out character, you can put them in any world you want. And that's for me, all my books, all my stories, I try to make them character driven. A lot of people say, oh, the plot drives the story. No, the character drives the story. The plot is the vehicle in which the character is driving the story Yeah, that works. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, I will read a story about the most absurd thing as long as I like whatever the characters are doing to accomplish this thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I've always tried to focus on the character first, make sure I like the character. I've written characters I didn't like, and I was like, okay, you are the villain. Go away.
Do they always become the villains if you don't enjoy writing them?
Not always. I've had a couple characters who became the sidekick. One would not quit being the lead character, so I was like, fine, you're there, but I'm going to kill you eventually. Which Jacob knows about that one.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the cover, and I mainly say that because the cover is staring at me from behind your head. Like I love this thing. She's got the most ferocious face. Like it's so good. So we've spoken a little bit about it before at cons and just hanging out and stuff. But a lot of traditionally published authors don't get a lot of input on their final covers. How much did you have on this one?
A lot. Partly because I work at Baen Books, so that gave me a kind of a leg up on everything. And two, I've known Kurt Miller for almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
We've been friends for a long time.
He does some great art too.
Yeah, he does. And when we were talking about this, I told him, I was like, I need frizzy hair. And he's like, well, what do you mean? So I was like, all right. And then I'll have to get a picture. And I talked to Melissa, and I was like, well, you don't have frizzy enough hair of what I'm thinking of. And then it just so happened, I was scrolling along, and I saw my buddy Nick had posted a picture of him and his daughter hanging out. I'm like, that kind of frizzy hair. So I was like, Nick, this is going to sound a little creepy, but can you send me a picture of your kid? And he's like, what? I was like, no, it's for a book cover. And he's like, oh, okay. And then they got in contact with Kurt Miller, and they did a series of photo shoots to help guide Kurt for the art creation process. And she's actually on the cover twice, the headshot. And then if you look at the very bottom of the cover, you see her leaning out of an armored vehicle.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah.
Yeah, your author name covers it a little bit. I didn't even notice that part of the cover until you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's her as well, posing in that one.
That makes the cover all the more epic. I love it.
Yeah. So Nick was doing the photos, and so she's leaning out of his pickup truck, pretending to shoot at the neighbor's house across the street with a real AR-15, and he kept going, "No, it's okay. It's not loaded. We checked."
Oh man. I bet that made for some interesting discussions in the neighborhood.
Well, it's Florida, so okay. It's like a Tuesday, I guess. I don't know.
Thursday in Florida. So did you have a character that you enjoyed writing above all the others in this novel?
Well, Maddie was fun. Ula was, even though she doesn't say a word throughout most of it, Ula was fun. I don't think you've met her yet.
Like I have, she's only just entered the story. Like she's become Maddie's sort of apprentice at the point where I am. But even though she doesn't speak, her methods of communication, using sign language and whatnot, are very interesting. And they make her I lost my train of thought. The fact that she can't, or because of her because of her trauma, is unable to communicate verbally, makes her have to find other ways to communicate. And the fact that she has to communicate through these subtle ways makes her a more interesting character.
Yeah.
All of these, and that actually leads to another question. So all of these characters have some sort of traumatic background, whether it's because of their pre-zombie life or something they experienced during the zombie apocalypse. How do you balance those dark backgrounds and yet still write a story that is ultimately fun?
Because in the end, it's about hope. It's about trying to fight for a better tomorrow. It doesn't matter. I mean, for the girls, it does matter to what happened to them. But one thing that Sister Anne and the school was trying to do was teach them that they aren't anchored by their past. They can move on if they allow themselves to. And that's like, I think I used the line, teaching girls to become women. Mm-hmm. I think it was. But you know, and I think it was a quip in there too about doesn't mean they can't be well-armed women, something like that.
Yes. I love that quote.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it's just trying to move past the trauma that they'd experienced during the apocalypse, before the apocalypse happened, and all the crap that's happened afterwards, and just keep trying, keep hoping for a better tomorrow, and keep working for a better tomorrow.
I really, really love that theme too, because it seems like a lot of science fiction and fantasy these days is just dark and hopeless, and I really enjoy stuff that gives me a future to hope for, even if the present I'm reading about is a zombie apocalypse.
Well, I think David Weber, actually the other day you were there at dinner with us. Oh, yeah. When David said the one thing he doesn't like about dystopian is that there's no hope in dystopian. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of dystopian, but at the end there is hope. There's always hope.
Yeah, they're always striving, if only to survive. And we got Nick in the comments says, Jason arranges words in a decent manner sometimes. Sometimes. Every now and then.
Well, considering he just had to suffer through writing 2 books with me, he's allowed.
He has privileges.
Yes. And plus, his daughter was on the cover, so.
Yes. So she makes a great cover model, by the way.
Yes.
This cover is, oh my gosh, I love this cover so much. And Linda's in the comments saying, love it. It would make a fabulous poster. And yeah, it absolutely would make a fabulous poster. Like that deserves to be wall art.
Yeah, I actually, I had an extra poster board made for them. I sent it to her. It was part of my payment, along with the money I paid for the maps she drew for the interior of the book.
Yes, I love the maps.
The maps are great.
They're very authentic maps being drawn by someone who is a teenager in a book that is led by a teenager.
Tony Weisskopf was thrilled when I told her I was going to get a teenager to hand draw the maps. Mm-hmm. So. And they came out fantastic. I love them, especially where the doodles all along the side. It's just like a bored teenager drawing a map and just, I'm bored. I'm going to add mushrooms over here. And ooh, smiley face, zombies suck up at the top, you know.
What was the most challenging part of this novel to write? Were there any particular scenes that, oh, really?
The ending, I can't spoil the ending, but the ending scene, the last chapter scene was heartbreaking to write.
Oh, no, now I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was very difficult to write that scene. I stopped. Normally what I did in my writing process, I write the end first. And then I go back to the beginning and I try to see how I get my characters there. Mm-hmm. I saved this one for the very end because I wanted to be emotionally wrung out when I wrote it. Mm-hmm. So I could bring more of that, just that pain and hope. And it's just everything. One big ball of ugly cry emotion at the end.
I'm both scared and excited now because emotions. But what about a favorite scene?
Favorite scene was you're almost to the favorite scene, so I can't spoil it.
Oh no, yeah, you can. I'm early in the book. Okay.
When they blow up the bridge.
Okay, I figured that bridge was doomed at some point. They keep talking about it, and they keep talking about blowing it up, and I'm like, rest in peace, bridge. You're not gonna survive this book.
So in the original short story, they just burned the bridge and let it drift down river. But one of the requirements for writing the book, John Ringo said, was I had to watch St. Trinian's, the British comedy of boarding school girls trying to save their school. And if you haven't seen them, they're absolutely hilarious.
What's it called again?
Saint Trinians, Trinian apostrophe S.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get that one out. And they've been around since, wow, I'd say the 60s. Mm-hmm. And they've just been this long running British series of comedy movies. And they just rebooted them back in 2004 or 6 or something like that. Mm-hmm. It might have been more recent than that. But in the movie, they had a set of twins who like to blow something up. And so I was like, I need those twins.
You absolutely need to use those twins. And they make an appearance.
So I brought the twins.
They get to blow something up. Like the moment the book mentioned that I can't remember their exact backstory that I encountered thus far, but I know that Maddie didn't know their backstory, but it had something to do with setting fires too close to police headquarters. And I was like, the moment that detail dropped, I was like, oh, we're going to get lots of interesting fire, and it's probably going to contribute to the title of the book. Yes.
It's yes, their background is very interesting.
Oh, so we learn more about that.
Oh, I forgot one of my other favorite characters. There's a character in there named Emily, who I really like, and she's actually based on someone I know in real life. And she just like the know-all. She reads a manual, she can figure out how to build it. It's just she has to have a manual.
Yeah,
and I like it. That's also one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm. How did you decide what roles you wanted to have each girl to play? Because they do serve, like they are pretty average teenage girls, but each one also serves a specific purpose. What with Emily being the really smart one who can figure out anything from a manual, you've got Maddie being she's the sort of unwilling leader type, and you've got others with various other skills. How did you decide what skill sets to give these characters and still keep it realistic?
They decided for me. I didn't know. Like Kayla became the gardener because originally she worked with the farm manager because the school had a farm on it before they got rid of all their horses, but they still had a couple of chickens and they had a garden. So she just she was already working with them along with a couple other girls when the zombie apocalypse happened. She was the last one to survive, so she just kind of naturally fell into the position. As you go on, you're going to see one of the other girls who Maddie thinks is rather worthless turn into a very valuable asset. So she's going to and you know, Maddie shows some character growth throughout where she learns to trust the other girls to do their job and also accept the fact that she is the leader even though she does not want to. She just likes to be the zombie killer. That's what she wants to do. I
like that about Maddie's character. It adds a lot of complexity to her because she is someone who could be a very capable leader, but often I really love reluctant leader characters. Like I often hold this opinion that the person who is most qualified to lead or have a position of power is the person who doesn't want it, and because they treat it with more respect. And I really enjoyed that aspect of Maddie's character.
And also, she's the part of the thing is when you have responsibility. If there is failure, you have to shoulder the blame. And she's done that before in the past, and she didn't like it, and she doesn't want to do it again.
All right, let's see. I have to pull out my question sheet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're fine. All right. So, over my shoulder, I have also been seeing Monster Hunter Memoirs Fever. Let's talk a little bit about that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you've written in two of Baen's biggest series. So
I'm sorry?
Now you've written in two of Baen's biggest series. So that's exciting.
And technically 3, because I've also written in Eric Flint's 1632 series.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I need David Weber, and I've got the holy quadfactor. Yeah, quadfacta. That sounds like a legit word. We're going to run with it. So Monster Hunter Memoirs Fever is a project that I accidentally stumbled on a long time ago when Larry and I were both first starting on the scene. He said, "Hey, we should work together on something sometime." I was like, "Sure." His career skyrocketed. Mine kind of slowly has been creeping up. I don't think I'm gonna catch him, but I'm there. And one day we were talking about it. And I was like, "Hey, remember when you said we should write together sometime?" And he laughed, and then he said, "Wait, when did I say that?" It had been 10 years at that point. I don't blame him for forgetting. And So we talked some more, and then we came up with the idea of setting Fever in the 70s, which, Southern California 70s. Both of us were born there during that time frame, so I knew it better than he did because he grew up in like cow country and I grew up in LA. So like I was going off of memory a lot for building the city when I was right. Okay, 210 didn't exist yet, so we had to drive down Foothill. Right. Okay. Just stuff like random stuff like that. But basically, we took a Chloe Mendoza is a Naguali, a half demon daughter of Mayan god panthology. She's you remember what is it? Percy Jackson.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, she's a demigod. A half blood for like that, but she goes away during World War II to earn her puff exempt, and she comes back in the 70s because she kind of gets kicked out of Israel because of the things that happen. And she's welcomed back, and NHI gives her a job. And then they stick her on a newly formed team in Los Angeles because they haven't had one there in a long time. And a rival company had been pretty much running California for years until they met with a demi-goddess. Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, comment. Where was I going with that? Oh, yes, because they ran into eldritch horrors up in the Redwood National Forest. And so now there's this big opening for Monster Hunter teams, and MHI is there to fill the void. And basically it talks about this looming evil. She gets a message from her father's court, the Court of Feathers, who appeared in Monster Hunter Bloodlines, that something dark is stirring in Los Angeles, and it's going to wipe out LA, if not all of California and the West Coast. So her and MHI have to figure out what it is and stop it before it can happen. We have ideas for a trilogy, but there's no contracts yet. So
now, writing in two different series that are not your own, which was the more challenging one to write in? Because in both cases, you have to keep up with already established worlds. So did you have any special organization technique you had to use? Like, did you fully read both series before you started? How did you manage that aspect of the planning and the writing?
So Monster Hunter was actually easier because I've been such a huge Monster Hunter fan from the start, and I've known, like I said, I've been pretty good friends with Larry for, I'm not going to do the time math, but it's been a while, and that was like I have a good idea of where he's taking it, just from the hints he's dropped throughout the books, and I've confirmed with him certain things, and I was wrong about other things, so yeah, it works. And also, I have the Monster Hunter RPG book, which has all the stats of all the monsters that we need in there. So other than the ones we had to make up, it was pretty easy.
I added a link back to the entry form. So I see you squint every time a new comment comes up.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm also a little blind, so I'm like. And then for Black Tide Rising, that was actually more difficult because I had to go through, read all 4 of the originals, read the anthologies, try to find out if anybody had touched this area of Virginia. Turned out Mike Massa and John had written 2 books in the roughly similar area. And I didn't realize at the time until I started reading it closer. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that Boy Scout camp. That's like not that far from the girls' school. Oh, crap. But they didn't go. They eventually go south down to Tennessee, so it worked out.
Cool.
Whereas the girls stayed where they were at. But that also had different nuances and just different storytelling styles. Monster Hunter was easy because other than the memoirs books he wrote with John and the book he wrote with Sarah, it's all Larry. So there's no change in voice or like style, storytelling styling, other than as he's gotten better as a writer through the years going by, the plotting and the pacing and everything it's good.
Now, in an earlier conversation we talked about writing music, and I wanted to bring that up because the two of us are very intense about our writing music. So first off, you're the type who develops playlists for each of your novels and each of your ideas. So what's on the playlist for Mountain of Fire? How do you pick what music you write to?
So Mount of Fire was a lot of just club EDM music.
Really?
I was trying to get in that teenage mindset. I was like, what do teenagers listen to? So I put on like the current pop hits. And after about 30 seconds, I was like, all right, what else would an alternative type of teenager listen to? And I asked a couple of my friends' kids, I was like, hey, what kind of music do you listen to? And once they got past the pop stuff, it was pretty overwhelmingly EDM style, club style music. And I was like, okay, I can deal with that. Trance, okay. I wasn't expecting that from 15-year-olds, but okay.
Yeah, that's surprising.
A lot of them had just discovered The Cure.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun when they're like, oh, yeah, you ever heard of this new band called The Cure? And I just laughed. And I was like, yes, I know The Cure.
Oh, Philip says, wait, there's an MHI RPG? Yeah, it came out.
There was.
There was a Kickstarter, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago. Was it 10? No, about 6, 7, I don't know. It was a while back.
Years. I remember watching the Kickstarter and all the rewards whenever it first came out. But yeah, it's been out a bit.
Yeah, I've got the hardcover and the paperback version because I'm just that guy. I gotta get them all. I'm like Larry books are like Pokemon. I gotta get them all.
Yes. What was on your playlist for Fever?
Oh, come on. Yeah. A lot of disco. A lot of disco. Even though the story takes place before disco had really taken off, a lot of disco. Not a lot of rock. Because, I was trying to recapture that Southern California disco scene in the mid 70s where it was pretty wild and drug fueled and pretty wild. I mean, Club 54 in New York City gets all the press, but LA and the club scene in West Hollywood earned its reputation for a reason. A lot of disco. Pretty much just, I got tired of disco. I don't want to listen to disco ever again.
I can imagine after all that listening. Do you have so you've got your book specific playlists. Do you have any general writing music that you tend to go to when you're not using those playlists?
I have I think it's up to 26 hours random playlist of just every song I've liked. I'll just say, that sounds like a song I could write to, throw it on the big playlist. Yeah. And that's a lot of music. It's a lot of music.
Yeah, mine by comparison is somewhat boring. Like I have playlists for each of my novels and sometimes each of my characters, but that's mostly my thinking music. I do all my brainstorming and my plotting and my outlining to that. But when I actually sit down to write, I can't focus if there are lyrics. And sometimes I find that even song breaks or track breaks will distract me from writing. And so I just put on the Calm app and I have soundscapes going in the background and or just little there's something I've started listening to a lot of binaural beats kind of playlists, which is just kind of this low buzzing noise effectively. But for whatever reason that helps me concentrate. It's kind of like white noise, but more interesting. And
so there's a YouTube channel I really enjoy. It's Ambient Worlds. And what they do is they play theme music from certain popular movies like Harry Potter or Batman, but they'll add like the sound of a city in the Batman one or sound of nature or fire crackling. Cool. So it avoids the copyright problems as well. And hey, I know that name.
I made it live for once.
And you'll recognize that name from Mountain of Fire.
It's one of the cool characters. So Emily, you'll look forward to meeting your counterpart in Mountain of Fire. She's cool.
Emily is actually that is the cover artist for A Christmas Surprise, my kid's book, with the baby kaiju on the cover.
I love that cover. Oh my gosh. I love that you have a Christmas kaiju book, by the way. Like I haven't read it yet. It's on my list of things to read. Like I have my reading list I am of the opinion that buying books and reading books are two completely separate hobbies. And I'm a more enthusiastic book buyer than book reader. So I've got a whole bunch of books It's especially tough having so many author friends too, because I want to read all my author friends' stuff, but everyone is releasing stuff so fast. It's wild. But
hey, I like
Emily
that.
says, I may or may not have gotten the library I work for to order the book just because I'm in it. Ah! Thank you, Emily. You are wonderful. And let's see. Oh, we got the things are blowing up here. Oh, yes, that was my favorite cover to illustrate so far, says Emily. But I'm going to have you on to talk about that once I read it, because I'm probably going to fangirl all over it because I love kaiju stories. And
It's fun. It's about a little girl who was asked for a puppy for Christmas, and she gets a baby kaiju on accident. And
yes,
the only way to get rid of it and put it back where its home is to kidnap Santa and save Christmas.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. Now that we are talking about your other books, you have a few more things coming out this year. So do we want to talk about those a little bit?
Sure.
What's coming up next?
Next, October 6th, Nick, if you're still here, you can correct me. It's our first book in the Salvage Child universe, a new mainline series called The Invasion. Mm-hmm. And that one is Salvage Purgatory. And the crew of the Cabrillo are marooned on a back-end world providing pretty much customs checks and for doing a job a little too well. And it has vibes of On Basilisk Station a little bit by David Weber on it. But for the most part, it's a straight up build up to the invasion, which is as the series talks about. I really can't talk about too much because I don't want to spoil it, but after that, the second book is coming out a month later, so people aren't going to have to wait at all.
Nice.
And that's going to be Salvage Harbinger. Mm-hmm. And that one continues the story of Captain what is Miggy's last name? Oh my goodness. Captain Miggy and the crew of the Cabrillo as they're fighting the alien invaders who are coming to destroy everything. So nice. And then same month, November, I've got my second short story collection coming, Side Hustle Volume 2.
Yes.
Which includes two never published before short stories in them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, one of them is about Hammurabi's son and why the lower half of his kingdom was abandoned during his reign. I just blamed it on zombies.
Of course.
And then another one, which was I don't remember what the other short story that hasn't been published before though. But there was a second one that was out as well. And that one's going to be about the same size as the first one. So be prepared for a nice thick book. I apologize. And that'll be out the first week in November as well. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's it. I don't think I have anything in December. Oh, I'm hoping
a nice little break.
I'm hoping to have the audiobook for A Christmas Surprise ready for Christmas this year.
Nice.
So.
See, Phillips in the comments again says the Christmas kaiju book is super cute. Definite recommend. And then Emily is back and says, I hand painted the cover in order to give it that little golden book style. I like it though. The little golden book style is exactly what came to mind whenever I first saw it. It's such a soft, pleasant looking cover. And,
I requested that from her. It was she nailed it. It's such a beautiful cover. One day I'm gonna be able to afford to buy the actual painting off her.
Oh, and Emily is back saying of your short story, oh, I love anything dealing with ancient civilizations. And Jamie says, send me your manuscript so he can do the cover.
Yeah, he does my cover. He did my cover design for it, and he also is doing the interior layout for it. And it's being proofread at this moment.
Oh, and I feel like I missed.
We have a lot of people chatting tonight. Wow.
Oh yeah, we got a really busy chat tonight. So man, we are getting to the top of the hour. This went by fast.
Yeah, we have been having. Wow.
Yeah, we've been chatting all along. Before we start wrapping up, though, there's actually something I wanted to say at the beginning that I completely forgot about because we just kind of jumped into it. But Jason and I and Jacob and David Weber are going to be doing a group signing at the end of next month. I'm going to bring up my little flyer here because it looks cool. So if you are in the Spartanburg, South Carolina area, we are going to be at the Tangled Web Comic Shop, and on Saturday, October 26th, from 2 to 3 p.m., we're going to be doing a reading / panel / general chatter at people thing, and then from 3 to 5, we are going to be hanging out and signing and chatting and just being cool. So if you're in the South, in the Spartanburg area, come and hang out. There are lots of reasons why you should, in addition to us just being cool. We're going to have a bunch of our books that you can buy. Anyone who buys one of our books is going to get 10% off of your entire order in the shop. They also have a really nice coffee bar. That is, they're my coffee dealers, you guys. I spend ridiculous amounts of money on trading cards there and ridiculous amounts of money on coffee there. Also, we're going to be in their little gaming room. There is limited seating space. I think they can only fit about 20 people or 20 chairs, but there will be standing space. So if you want to come and you want to be guaranteed a seat, it's best to arrive early. But there, you can also, if you don't want to sit, you can just stand. We're not going to kick people out. But again, that's going to be Saturday, October 26th. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And I will get the events and whatnot posted on our various pages and whatnot. I literally just got the flyer approved maybe an hour before this event, but wanted to show that off. So there we go. And let me get my screen all set up again. But yeah, so let's see. We've covered most of my questions already. Do you have any other books you want to talk about? We've covered so many books.
I did a count the other day because at Dragon Con, people were like, "How many books you written now?" And I was like,
"You've written a ton of stuff."
40. But yeah, it turned out it's over 60. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah,
I was like, I've only been doing this for about 14 years now, and I've already got over 60 short stories and novels out.
You've got an incredible.
I'm always proud of the Kin Wars. Of course, I mean the Kin War series, which Jacob kindly blurbed for me, which was awesome.
Yes, I'd actually forgotten that he blurbed it, and then I was looking at the back of Mountain of Fire, and he's like right there. I got excited.
I've got those series. That's my homage to military science fiction thrillers. It's got the combat people want in military science fiction, but it's also got the spy thriller, and it's a love story wrapped around a mystery, wrapped around intergalactic war, wrapped around trying to save a civilization. Because I don't do things small, apparently. Who knew?
That's the kind of I like, though.
I'm trying to think what else. I mean, the salvage books. I've written in the Four Horsemen a 6 times. Wow. And I'm joining a new series. Well, not new. It's already been published, the first book. But John Ringo, Casey Azell, and Christopher L. Smith wrote a book called Gunpowder and Embers, and it was published in 2020. Casey, unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts and stuff, had to drop out of the series. And so Christopher, John, and Tony Weisskopf asked me if I would join in and help them finish the series.
Cool.
So, and then I'm working on a Secret Seeker project.
Cool. Well, what we know we've got the October 26th signing coming up. What else do you have coming up in terms of cons and signings?
Okay. Well, right now everything is kind of on hold. I usually do WivaCon every year, which is a 1-day event in Wytheville, Virginia, at the community college there. It's a 1-day convention, and it's free to get in. And I'll do a couple panels, and I'll hang out and we'll go drinking at a bar or this burger bar place they have not too far away. But this year, because of some stuff I might have scheduled going on, I don't know yet if I'm going to be able to attend. But after that, MarsCon, I was talking about doing Dragonsteel this year in Salt Lake City, which is Brandon Sanderson's big personal convention. But again, stuff is in the air right now with that. I'm still planning on doing MarsCon.
Nice.
I haven't been approved yet as a attending professional, but I'll be there in a working capacity because the guest of honor is Christopher Rocchio. Yeah. I'm going to go support my friends. So
yeah, I'm going whether I'm a guest or not. But yeah, Jacob and I are hoping to be at that one too. Or since we're waiting on our guest approval. Ooh, yeah, MarsCon is a fun one.
But that's it for conventions for this year, though. Other than that one, they've been trying to talk me into going to confinement for years, but it's so far from me now. It used to be, well, it's always been about a 6 to 8 hour drive, but it's just so far.
Where is that one?
East of Knoxville.
Okay.
No, west of Knoxville. Knoxville. It's toward Nashville.
I know it's one that I hear about a lot, but I hear about so many cons because all my author friends are going places all the time.
Yeah, it's like, don't make me think too hard. I'm still recovering from Dragon Con outside of Nashville. There we go.
I had a panel last night, and half of the panelists they had con crud or were otherwise recovering from Dragon Con. So I need to just not schedule things around Dragon Con week.
This is the first Dragon Con I've done since 2018 that I did not get sick after. I'm very happy.
Yes, congratulations.
And I was shaking everybody's hand. So it was those vitamin C and those vitamin C tablets, just eating those like they were candy.
They worked apparently, though. I'm going to have to remember to take those to cons then. Oh, Melissa says it's outside of Nashville.
Okay, so that's confinement. Okay, cool.
Yes. All right, cool. Well, we are close to the top of the hour, so thank you for joining me tonight. This has been super, super fun. Thank you, everyone in the comments, for joining us. We had a ton of people tonight, so it's and a very active chat. And again, we are going to be giving away 2 signed copies of Mountain of Fire, which I'm going to put in the chat one more time for easy access, but it's also in the show notes wherever you're watching. And I'm really enjoying what I've read thus far. It's a super fun book. Whoever wins it, you're in for a treat. But again,
we forgot one other thing, Heather.
Oh, what did we forget?
I'll be on next week as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I did forget about that. Our brains are both tired. I didn't even go to Dragon Con, and I'm tired. But so yeah, next week at same time, I think. Yeah, Saturday at 8. Jason, my husband Jacob, Jamie Ibsen, and Tom Pope are going to be on Authors Just Talk About Helldivers 2. And so if you're a Helldivers fan, you should absolutely come and join us. I listen to these guys play Helldivers just about every day, and their hijinks are amazing and hilarious, and we're gonna have a fun time chatting about this game. But yeah, you guys should absolutely join us next week. But until then, bye.